This build is not just about kills and damage, but how well you can stay alive while you do both the former. The intro clip's a bit longer than usual. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright guys, welcome back to another Division 2 build video, and today we're looking at the Immortal Pony build. This build was effectively inspired from all of my regen builds, which I'll make a separate video on, but I've got a damage regen version, then I've got a damage hazard version, then I've got a tank hazard version and a tank regen version, and I also have a momentum version of the existing build that we're just going to talk about. I also have another version of this, so I've been playing around with regen builds a hell of a long time. To give you some context, and I got to tell you, the beef that I have with regen and hazard protection builds is that when you go into the dark zone, you're struggling to clear landmarks. You run out of bullets most of the time. So not to, if it's purely for PvP, by all means it makes sense, but I wanted to come up with a build that allows me to clear landmarks quite effectively, quite quickly, but also allow me to, you know, get to a point where I can get into PvP, even use it in conflict. So everything that you've seen in the intro clip, it's a bit longer than usual, is a combination of both conflict but also Darkzone. and how it operates in there. So where all of the typical regen builds, like let's go for the tank, where's this tank regen. So this is like the meta tank regen build where you pretty much armor regen and then headshot damage on this. So you're pushing out like 120k is it regen? Just over 100k regen. I don't know the stats exactly, but that's what you typically do. And you've got substantial headshot damage of around 200% on this, which will push up to 300% when you go and build up the stacks with the bighorn. But I didn't like that, not because it's not good. It's just it doesn't suit my playstyle, and that's why I came up with the Immortal Pony build, which takes the best out of everything. You've got some strong regen on this, as you will see now as we go through the build. And at the same time, you do a lot of damage. You get an additional 30% damage, which also helps with hazard protection if you get foamed with a cloud that drops. It just works really well. In terms of the stats, we're running 56, 149. Now, small caveat. There's one or two pieces that I don't have. For example, I need another 100 basis points on that, or 1%. And on crit chance, I need another like 1% on that as well. And on here, we've got headshot damage that needs to be optimized. So you will push this to, 150, and this will go up to like 57, 58. So you'll get the max crit chance that you can at 150 crit hit damage with the Ouroboros with a substantial amount of armor. So you're looking at armor regen of 68. It's not optimized. It'll push over 70. So that's like your general, just your armor regeneration tick, and you've got 1.8 million armor. Now, if you go into the Darkzone, you start upgrading these pieces with more armor, you're going to be, just going to become more and more tanky, and the better it's going to work together. So we're running the Catharsis Mask. You guys should be familiar with what that does already. Critical hit damage maxed out mod, as well as on a Golan backpack, which has got adrenaline on it, also with critical hit damage. And then I've got another crit hit damage mod on this. So we're getting 36% crit hit damage just from the three pieces, just because of the mods. Then on the backpack, we're running three pieces Golan gear on the backpack. Like I said, we've got adrenaline on it. Everything is I tried to put everything to crit hit chance, crit hit damage. Obviously not for the Emperor's Guard, but that's kind of like where you want to go. When I started reaching the cap on crit hit chance, I exchanged that for headshot damage because this piece took me the longest to get. And given that I already have the cap at crit hit chance, I might as well just put headshot damage on there, or weapon handling, or whatever you fancy. But effectively, where the regeneration comes from, it's just three pieces from Golan, which gives you an additional 10% armor with three pieces, but you also get 1.5% armor regen. And then we've got one piece of Bellstone, which gives us 1% as well. And then we've got the Emperors, which gives us 1% as well. So you've got 1, 2, and then another 1.5. So you're looking at 3.5% armor regen. I think you can push that up to, even more with the other builds, but that's what we're running on this. And then you've got this with armor regen and incoming repairs, which just works really well with the Catharsis Mask, especially when it procs and you're dancing around in that. Now we're running Unbreakable. Now you could run, I don't know what it is, Efficient or whatever, where you might not use your medkit, but I found that as soon as my heartbreaker procs and I get into 50% armor in PvP, which is pretty strong, you're essentially getting, what is this? 50%. You're getting another, 900k armor just for having Unbreakable. So not only is this like over 2.4, 2.5 million armor that you actually have to do. And as soon as your Unbreakable procs and you double tap your heal, you get an additional heal on top of that, and the regeneration kicks in as well, which keeps you alive a hell of a long time. That's what works with this. So as you can see, all 6 pieces are on blue cores, and then crit hit damage, crit hit chance on everything until you get to a cap, and then you can roll anything else. You will have one piece where you can probably roll something like weapon damage or headshot damage onto it, and of course your shade level needs to be above 1,000 to get these kind of stats, to get all these bonuses together. So getting substantial amount from the watch itself, which doesn't matter in conflict, but as you would have seen in the intro clip, it doesn't matter if it goes away, because it goes away for everyone, so it's consistent. And that's what it comes down to. In terms of the build at the top, in terms of weapons, obviously Ouroboros, because of just the burst damage that it does. And of course, if you do get a status effect, it does give you that benefit of applying that stat effect to whoever applied it to you, which is very useful. And then I run the double barrel shotgun. I'm not sure if this is the best one, but I've got damage out of cover, damage to armor, and shotgun damage on this, not optimized. I literally use this to clean people up, which I've shown in the intro clip. And then we've got optimist on it because you're looking at 10%, 3% for every 10% missing from the amp, from 10%. 3% for every 10% ammo missing from the magazine. So you've got a mag of 2. So effectively, if 50% of your magazine's gone, you know, you're looking at 15% extra weapon damage immediately. Well, that is, hopefully that math is correct. Is it 3, 5? Yeah, it's 15. So that's where you are with it. And it just really helps cleaning up, you know, guys whose armor you've already shredded. You can just switch around and kill that. I'm running the fire at the moment because of the med kit, especially for the dark zone. But to be honest with you, I think gunner would work just as well. And to be honest, I'm indifferent between these two. I like gunner because of the extra armor on kill, but I didn't feel like I need to run that on here because we're getting that regeneration effect. Guys, that's the build. I'm not going to waste more of your time. I would suggest, if you're going to conflict, to possibly, if you could, I would suggest you run something like the Banshee Pulse, or even just a normal Pulse, or the EMP Pulse, just to get rid of skills, especially go up against skill players. And I will always run this. It just helps so much in terms of that damage reduction that you are getting. But again, this all depends on your playstyle. If you've seen my videos, you know I like to be aggressive. I like to be up in their faces. This works for me, and hopefully it'll also work for you. Thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel recently. I'm kind of rushing through this video because I've got another video that I want to bring out. The YouTube algorithm is really good to me, and that's thanks to you guys. So I really do appreciate that. Take care of yourselves. I hope you guys enjoy the build. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you run it. Let me know if you dominate. Take care of yourselves. Cheers.